Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Elise. I hope you're all doing so good today. We are back with the next edition of the Sherlock Holmes vlogs. This one I'm very excited about because we have returned to a novel. I'm ready for a novel, and this is The Hound of the Baskervilles. It is the fifth in publication order, and this one was published in 1902. So we have officially made it to the 20th century of Sherlock Holmes. I'm very excited. My editions are published by Headline, if you're curious. And what we do here is, right now I'll give you just the briefest synopsis of the book. I will read out the first paragraph or so to you, and then I'll give you a couple updates along the way. So this one, I'm pretty familiar with the story. I think The Hound of the Baskervilles is maybe the most famous story, if not one of the most famous. And I've seen a play adaptation of this multiple times. They were all fantastic. I've also seen adaptations in TV series. A lot of times they get a dedicated episode for the mystery behind The Hound at the Baskervilles. So I know it pretty well, but that almost has me more excited going into it. And this one follows a case where a coroner has ruled that someone has died by natural causes. It appears that they have died by a dog bite or canine bites, and Sherlock Holmes thinks there's something a little bit different happening there. So him and Watson go on the case together. And now let me read you a little bit of the opening of this one, so you can get just a flavor of how it begins. So this one starts, Chapter 1, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. Mr. Sherlock Holmes, who was usually very late in the mornings, save upon those not infrequent occasions when he was up all night, was seated at the breakfast table. I stood upon the hearthrug, and I picked up the stick which our visitor had left behind him the night before. It was a fine, thick piece of wood, bulbous-headed, of the sort which is known as Penang lawyer. Just under the head was a broad silver band nearly an inch across. To James Mortimer, M.R.C.S., from his friends of the C.C.H., was engraved upon it with the date 1884. It was just a stick, as an old-fashioned family practitioner used to carry, defined, solid, and reassuring. Well, Watson, what do you make of it? Holmes was sitting with his back to me, and I had given him no sign of my occupation. How did you know what I was doing? I believe you to have eyes in the back of your head. And we'll stop there. So I'm sure the walking stick will be some type of clue, and I'm excited to start investigating along with them. So I will catch in with you per usual when I reach the halfway point, and then you'll get a full review at the end. In the meantime, you're going to get some lovely footage and clips from my trip to Texas. There's some bookstore footage in there. So I hope you enjoy seeing some of the things we got up to while we were there, and I will check back in with you once I reach the halfway point. Bye.
are back and I have made it halfway through. Well, I've made it more, but we're gonna do the halfway review. And this novel I think is really interesting. It stands out from some of the rest that I've read so far because it is very Watson heavy. He is really taking charge of the case at the behest of Sherlock Holmes because Sherlock has another case that he needs to take care of and sends Watson in his place to keep an eye on things and document things. So you get a lot of Watson writing back to Sherlock, and then you also get Watson in the moment kind of meeting with some of the other characters and trying to deduce what's going on so he can relate it to Sherlock. Now this, like I said earlier, is probably the mystery that I'm most familiar with, so I kind of remember what happens, but that hasn't taken any of the enjoyment out of it for me, and I do think that this mystery is one of the best ones. I think it's really well crafted and developed. And I do also like the atmosphere of being out in the country. I think I've said this before, but I really love the mysteries, the short stories, or the novels where we're in the countryside. It adds this extra setting that I associate with Sherlock Holmes and Watson, or maybe with just like British crime in general, where they're like out on the moors, and like that feels very British to me as an American. So yeah, I'm enjoying all of that. I will also say the other thing I tried to do with this one is I'm listening to this via audiobook because I wanted to try one out as an audiobook and thought because I was most familiar with this one, it might be a good one to do. And the audiobook is kind of hilarious because it is very much performed. I would say in some ways it might even be a little over-performed, but I think that they're lucky that fits with the vibe, or maybe they're kind of going with that kind of farcical attitude about it. But yeah, know that if you're going to do the audiobooks, this might be the only one that I do as an audiobook because of that, but I'm still very much enjoying it. So that is my review halfway through, and I will send you off to go see B-roll of our vacation in Portland, which is very exciting because you'll get to see some clips from the Portland Book Festival, and then I will catch you back here to do my review of the end. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that footage, and we are going to talk about how this wrapped up. What I said before stands. I do think this is a very Watson heavy novel, but there's an interesting twist that doesn't have to do with the murder investigation itself. It's like a side twist that's happening that I think is really fun. And I definitely got sucked in and duped. I didn't remember that part of the story and I really enjoyed it. So if you know, you know. But this book has a couple of twists at the end. I think this one is probably as propulsive as maybe some of these get, because a lot of the times it's just Sherlock explaining things to you, which I personally enjoy, but I think not everyone will like that. And this one feels very much more like you're kept in the dark for a long period of time, but you're definitely getting clues throughout, and you know that certain things are clues. You're just trying to piece it together, and then when Sherlock comes in at the end, he pieces it all together for you. So I do think this might be the best mystery of all of the Sherlock Holmes books that I've read so far. In terms of it being like fair play, I think you could probably figure this out on your own. Whereas some of the other ones, I don't think there's any realistic probability that you could actually do that. And because this one has a couple of twists, I think that makes it really fascinating as well. The characters in here are really distinct. I think all around, this is just a really good installment into this series. And I think a lot of people would enjoy this as an entry point to Sherlock Holmes. I do think the last short story collection that I read, The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, would also be really good. But I think this one might be the best novel entry point that I've read thus far. So if you're curious about starting Sherlock Holmes, then you could definitely start with this one. But overall, really enjoyed. Hope you enjoyed being along for the ride with me. And I will catch you in the next Sherlock Holmes vlog. And I'm going to have my sleuthing hat on. So I will see you all then. Bye.